Just days after a huge victory in the U.S. presidential elections, President-elect Donald Trump has the wheels of the U.S. administration working in his favor amid congratulation messages pouring in. Work has begun on his anti-immigration agenda as well ahead of his inauguration. Trump started work to form a team for the White House. After Trump secured the win over his Democratic rival Kamala Harris, world leaders started congratulating him on the win. Among them were Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and NATO chief Mark Rutte. But Russian President Vladimir Putin was not among them. Putin is reported to have congratulated Trump, but the two leaders didn't have a conversation. An earlier report in the Washington Post cited unidentified sources saying that the two had spoken over the phone, with Trump telling Putin that he should not escalate the Ukraine war, but the Kremlin has denied the reports as being false. During his campaigning, Trump has said that once he is elected, he would implement mass deportations of undocumented migrants, and he has already started working in that direction. In a post on his Truth Social platform, Trump announced that the former acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Tom Homan, will be in charge of the country's borders in his new administration. Other than Homan, Trump has appointed two more officials. Trump has offered Republican Representative Elise Stefanik the role of U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. Trump earlier announced Susie Wiles, one of his two campaign managers, to be his White House chief of staff. She is the first woman to be named to the high-profile role. Apart from these appointments, Trump has asked his fellow Republican lawmakers to allow him to appoint key officials without a Senate confirmation vote. The president-elect's demand is being seen as an attempt to subdue the remaining power vested within the Democrats after discouraging mandates from the U.S. polls. Trump said that any Republican senator seeking a leadership position in the Senate must agree to recess appointments that authorizes the president to make temporary appointments when the Senate is not in session. All right, for more on this, we are now being joined by Mark Marowitz, professor at State University of New York Maritime College and a political analyst from New York. Mark, great to see you and great to talk to you. Happy Veterans Day. How do you see the formation of Donald Trump's new team, and how is he gearing up to carry out his promise and agenda? At least what do we know so far?
Well, I mean, things are just marching ahead, and Trump comes through with his promise to get going right away. Elise Stefanik is the UN ambassador. He's also announced that Mike Pompeo, and Nikki Haley won't be in his administration, but he's making appointments. He appointed a female chief of staff because you know that Trump doesn't deal with strong women. Can you imagine? He just completely always busts all predilections and biases about him. You know, everybody said he wouldn't win the Electoral College. He wouldn't win the popular vote. He won a landslide. He even won Michigan. So he's in there with a mandate. Now, the point you made about the recess appointments is very interesting because the Constitution does permit appointments during the recess when the Senate is not present. But those appointments must be approved by the Senate before the termination of the term in which the recess appointment takes place. And this has actually been a problem in the past when, for example, the president appointed the ambassador to Azerbaijan, and then that person was not approved by the end of the term. He lost his position. So it's not a slam dunk where the president can just appoint anyone he wants. And I do think it's a misstep to say to the Senate, because the Constitution does require that the president should submit his appointments to the Senate. But as far as Trump is, you're talking about appointments, Grenell is being spoken about as Secretary of State and other appointments. So I think we're off to a very, very good start.
Yeah, moving in the right direction, at least that's what the Republicans are telling us as well. You know, you talk about Susie Wiles, you talk about Elise Stefanik. These are very strong, powerful women now. And, you know, they'll never get that Vogue cover or Vanity Fair cover, but I don't think they're looking for that kind of acknowledgement anyway. I want to talk about how you see this in the context of past U.S. transitions and presidential powers, the way the former president is moving forward. Is it more or less the same?
I think there's a big difference in this one in the sense of the reaction of the Democrats, except for Biden. Biden has said, and of course, Biden was pushed out, so he might be actually happy about this, as actually talk about, in the paper today that they're trying to pressure Justice Sotomayor to resign so that Kamala Harris can become a Supreme Court justice. I mean, so the Democrats are not, accepting this. They're going berserk. Many of my Democratic friends are literally upset beyond belief. Okay, you have to accept it. But about the transition, I think a lot depends on how the Democrats accept this, because we have to work together and formulate the government going forward for the whole American people. And the Democrats need to really stop, thinking about and analyzing how they can counter President Trump. We need to move forward. We need to end these wars. We need to bring peace in the world. And you can't do that if you've got a group there trying to undermine what the president is trying to do. So I think that as far as the transitions are concerned, I mean, certainly the relationship between Trump and Biden is a fascinating relationship because, Trump called Biden, Sleepy Joe and all that. And, it was very personal. But then, of course, Biden was pulled out of the race. Harris came in, and he was basically forced out. So I think they're going to have a great conversation, a great transition when Trump meets with Biden on Wednesday. That's one that I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah. At this point, it seems the two men have a lot more in common than perhaps Harris and Trump. All right, Mark, it's great talking to you always. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.